Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of Towers Business Development. Thank you for joining us today for our update on improving your business. And today I want to discuss the role of a director in a small and medium-sized enterprise. There are thousands of companies around Australia, and recent reports from Australian Security Investment Commission indicate that every month thousands of new companies are being formed in Australia. Every one of these companies has at least one director. And if you're raising capital as a crowdsourced funding equity raising company, you need at least two directors that are both residents of Australia. So it's an appropriate time, I think, for an update on what's happening. Since the government introduced legislation about 4 years ago to enable crowdsourced funding equity raising companies and early stage innovation companies to be able to raise capital direct from the public, more and more companies are taking advantage of this tremendous opportunity. But with that opportunity comes legal responsibilities for the directors and officers of the company. Those regulations are basically the same for every company in Australia, whether it's a large publicly listed company or a small private company. But in particular, there is an onerous amount of responsibilities for directors of these new companies able to raise capital direct from the public. Crowdsourced funding equity raising can raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period. The directors need to be very familiar with the amendments that have been made to the Corporations Act to enable crowdsourced funding equity raising to occur. The company needs to be able to declare that its income is under $25 million and the gross value of its assets are under $25 million. And a company is able to raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period from the public by issuing ordinary shares. So there is great ability for a company to fix up its financial well-being by getting access to these funds, but with it comes legal responsibilities, primarily aimed at the directors, but also members of the leadership team. The other new company is early stage innovation companies. Now, each of these companies has to be a young company, and they need to comply with revenue and expenditure rules that relate to the previous 12 months. And then they have to qualify under one of two tests. The first test is the principles test. There are 5 very important questions, and the company needs to submit detailed answers. Each director should be very careful about the responses that have been issued, and each director should be signing off on the documentation that is submitted. Now, if you're qualifying as a early stage innovation company under the principles test, the process is that you should submit your due diligence review to the Australian Taxation Office for review, and they take about 6 weeks to do that. But that is not mandatory, and because of that, some people are bypassing that and basically self-assessing to talk to investors. I don't recommend that process. The principles test is not black letter law. There is different levels of interpretation. And if you're going to be approaching potential investors to invest in your company, I think you should be making sure that the tax office is going to honour what you believe is the position. In other words, they will issue a certificate that indicates that the company has been accepted by them for a period of time, normally to the end of the financial year that you're in, that the company qualifies as an early stage innovation company. If not, the directors could be involved in litigation, going through to court cases. If an investor has invested money in the company, which they won't be able to get back without taking legal action, in the understanding that the directors have signed off that the company has qualified as an early stage innovation company if in fact they haven't, because the investor believes that he or she is going to receive substantial taxation benefits from that investment. But the company could have qualified under the gateway test. The gateway test is a series of questions, and there are points allocated to each question. And if the company has accumulated more than 100 points, they have qualified as a early stage innovation company. The tax office say that they don't want people submitting due diligence returns to them at that stage to get substantiation that a company is accepted as an early stage innovation company, because it is basically black letter law. In other words, you either have done something or you haven't done something to earn the points. But you still need to be careful, and a director needs to be very happy that the law has been complied with, which has earned the company more than 100 points, because that information is going to be submitted to potential investors, and the company directors need to make sure that there's not going to be consequences from making false declarations as to how the company is qualified, because ultimately all of that information has to be submitted to the tax office in any case. And at some stage after the company has lodged its tax return, the company could find that there are consequences through not making proper disclosure and declarations. And what all this is doing is just picking on two new sections of the law that relates to company directors of SME companies. You should not take these responsibilities lightly. Towers Business Development has considerable experience in these types of activities. I've been a director of and company secretary of a lot of companies over the years. And in fact, I was the chief financial officer and company secretary for a decade of a publicly listed company. So again, great experience as to how all this system operates from that exposure. If you would like to join us for a free webinar on Thursday, the 5th of August, you are most welcome to do so. And we're going to be discussing corporate governance issues as it affects SMEs. So why not join us so that we can go through these types of issues and answer any questions that you have. In fact, if you have a question that you really want to ask now, why not send me an email, peter@towersbusiness.com.au, and I will answer that question in the webinar on Thursday, 5 August. You can register for that webinar by going to our website, www.towersbusiness.com.au, and click on webinars, which that heading is at the top of the homepage of our website. I look forward to talking to you then. Have a great day. Goodbye.